Hello, guys. Welcome back to another Cinematic Mike review. Today, I'm going to review Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. I picked up Citizen Kane like a few months ago because the Criterion Collection released it on Blu-ray in 4K. So I got my Criterion Collection of Citizen Kane. I did an unboxing to it. I did let you guys know that there are some issues with the first disc, disc number one. So Criterion asked us to send it back so we could get another copy that was an actual fixed copy already, because I guess the first one had issues. It was only on the Blu-ray disc. That was it. So I sent it out like around Christmas time. I had some issues with the mail, with the what is it, UPS? I forgot the mail. I don't want to say the other one, the USPS. So I had issues with them because I was wondering where my disc was, and I contacted Criterion, and they're like, "We haven't received it. When did you send it?" So I went back, and then I found out that the mail lost my disc, and so but I had taken pictures of the receipt, pictures of me bagging it, and so I sent it to them because they were like, "Well, did you have proof, at least something that we could show?" And I just showed it to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. We don't need anything else." And they sent it to me, and I got it like a few weeks ago. And so I finally put it on because I some stuff come up on social media, and I'm like, "Oh, damn, I want to watch it." And then I just saw The Irishman, because I got the Criterion Collection of that one on the flash sale. So I'm like, "Oh, I gotta put on Citizen Kane. I got the disc already, so I gotta put that on." So I'm doing like a review on Citizen Kane, kind of like a review, my thoughts on it. Citizen Kane is a big film that's known to a lot of people that are like movie lovers, even the filmmakers, people are anything about film already. Citizen Kane is like the big one. It's one that I got into when I was getting into film. I remember I thought that I got introduced to Citizen Kane in school, but I think I introduced Citizen Kane to myself because I was on social media, and then I found out that I saw like in 2011, and I know I wasn't in film school. I was not going to school at that time. I think I was just out of high school or something, and I wasn't in college or anything. So I think I had probably was one of my moments where I always start investigating what are good movies to watch, or like something that I'm looking for. And people were probably mentioning Citizen Kane and how I talked about the creative things that I did with the filmmaking process and all that. So I think I introduced myself to Citizen Kane, and from the looks, from what I read on my social media, it looks like I enjoyed it from a long time ago. And I've seen it so many times because I went to college and I went to university, and it's like one of those films that you watch all the time. In those, it's like just something you're definitely gonna see if you're taking like a film class and all that. Is Citizen Kane. I remember there's this one time where one class where some professor was like, "I'm pretty sure you guys all saw Citizen Kane already, right?" She's like, "Yeah, well, we could either watch Citizen Kane or Inception." And I was like, "I'd rather watch Citizen Kane." I love Inception, but I was like, I want to hear like her thoughts or whatever, if there was anything new to learn from Citizen Kane. So I was okay with watching Citizen Kane again. I'm pretty sure other people probably wanted Inception over Citizen Kane. But yeah, so I put on the film, and it has a lot. It's known to done a lot with the filmmaking. I was reading yesterday when I was trying to think of what I can say, but I read yesterday article where it said that it wasn't Citizen Kane didn't do all this stuff, that they got this from the German expressionist films, like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So it said that, but this is kind of known like the origin of this stuff with, I think, the camera movements, the camera facing up, getting the roof and all that. A lot of things. So that a lot of I read, and I didn't know that. I thought this was. I was like, yeah, wasn't this one of the reasons why I got fascinated by it? Because I was hearing that this was like the origin of all the stuff that you can do with the camera, with editing and all that. But I saw some people talk about how it wasn't actually the first one. Goes to somewhere else. But obviously, this one took advantage of it in a good way, I think, to make Citizen Kane what it is. And yeah, I remember I was getting fascinated about it when I was reading up on it a long time ago, like when I was barely gonna watch it, and they were talking about how it was the first movie that put the camera facing up and you could see the roof, because before it was just sets, but there was no roof. And so that was pretty cool. And then camera movements, like just tracking shots and all that stuff, crane shots, I think, low angle, high angle. So I don't know, it's just fascinating that I was like, oh, this is kind of like the origin story to all this stuff, what we see in films now. And I told you guys when I did a review on The Irishman that I love Martin Scorsese because he does a lot of things with with camera movement. And it's, I don't know, there's something fascinating about camera movement, just being kind of stuck into that world, making it kind of feel real, instead of just placing it there and here and there, you know? So, I mean, I don't mind some of those if they're good stories and all that, or whatever they're trying to tell. But I like that one, like The Irishman, with a lot of camera movements. So I I saw all that stuff, and I saw it yesterday too again, and I enjoyed watching it. Everything, the editing too. There's the editing process. The opening of the film opens up with and some of the things that I'm gonna say is probably things that a lot of people already know. Because I mean, this thing's uh, I'm saying this stuff not because it's like it's something I already know from, so I don't want to take credit from for it because it's something I've heard already from my professors. So my professors kind of the ones who brought this to light to me, and I was trying to figure out anything else that I could figure out on my own. But everything I was picking up on, it would just bring back the memory to what my professors were like teaching me when I was watching the film. So yeah, there's a lot of things there. But one of the things that I remembered in the opening was like how the editing, how we kept getting closer to the house, to the Kane's castle. He lives in a big house, a castle. And in the opening, it seems like we're outside of the house, but then it cuts to the gate closer. Then it cuts more closer to the inside of the house, already inside of the gate, and then it cuts to the window, and then I think it goes inside the house, and it's crazy those like the way it's just cut into those scenes, like shots, and just cutting it, getting closer, and then getting inside there. So that opening is really cool to see how they did that with the editing. Another interesting thing about the film was the also right like after Kane passes away, we get like this whole like clips of these like reels of like Kane's life and all that, and it was taking forever, and I totally forgot about this scene. I was like, it got to a point where it was taking too long, and I'm like, wait, is this because I know sometimes when you get a movie, sometimes there's a feature added and like someone's talking about the film or something that got added to it, and it takes a while before the movie starts. So I was getting lost. I'm like, wait, was this part of the movie? I forgot if this was part of the movie or not. And so we're getting all these like newspapers, these people talking about Kane's life, letting us get to know him about his first wife, his second wife, his friend, when he took the newspaper and all that. And I was all getting all hooked into it, but getting confused too whether this was part of the movie or if it's just something that got added onto this DVD that I got. And then after, it turns out that it's cool because it seems like they're talking to us, like the audience. It seems like it's going to us. But then it turns out that it was these people that were like newspaper reporters right there at the table. They were actually watching it. So it's cool because it kind of tricks you in a way. So that was interesting to see that. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I remembered, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how this plays out. That's how this plays out. And that's how we get introduced to, what was his name? Thompson or something. I think Thompson, the guy that has to go investigate Kane on his last words. Kane's last words before he passed away was Rosebud. So I thought that was a nice touch to it of just like kind of playing a trick on the audience, like making it think they're talking to you, but then we realize like, no, it's still part of the story, and this guy's watching the clips with his whole crew right there. As I said, this film is kind of known to be like the master of like all films. I think it's probably known as one of the greatest films of all time. And it goes to a lot, I think, with editing, storytelling, cinematography, directing, acting. And I think cinematography is a special part in it too, is because I remember that this thing takes part of that, what's known as the chiaroscuro type of thing, where kind of like The Godfather, I think, where some things are in the dark and some things are lit up partially. And so there's a lot of that here where some people are in the shadows, and then some lights kind of come in off of them, like a glowing light. It's a dark room and some light from a window is coming down. I can't touch much on that because I forgot much about that part, and I really want to see some videos again on thinking about what it meant for this film. But that's something I did have to bring up because I know that part was important. And then I remember like the most famous shot where the reporter's right there talking to the other one, and like the lights just like making him glow, but he's still like dark. It's just shining through his body. So I have to still see more about that. I forgot all about like what it meant for the story. It does go with, I guess, because Godfather was like mysterious too with the chiaroscuro. So I'm not sure if that has to do with this too, being mysterious, Kane's life being a mystery to these people. But I have to go into more in depth with that. Look up that information for myself to try to remember what it was all about. One of the other things in the editing process is the whole thing where I think I'm not sure if it was Thompson or I think it was Thompson. I hope I'm getting his name right. The reporter that starts investigating on Kane's life, and then he's reading a paper, and it's cool because it's a note where it's talking about, it's like a journal, and then it says 1817 or 18 something, and then it dissolves into Kane as a child. So it's cool that we don't really have to state it like like in a way it kind of does, but it's part of the story where the camera's catching it instead of someone just putting a title like me editing and putting like 1987 to tell the audience like, okay, we're in this year now. This was cool because it's a story that he's reading, the Thompson, and the line ends up at the last word that he sees is 1817, and then it just dissolves into Kane when he's so now we know what year we're in. A bit, no one, the director, the editor didn't have to stamp it on there on top of the frame, and be telling the audience basically this is the year that we're in now. It was still kind of going with the flow of the story, which was an amazing shot with the whole thing. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, the camera work here is impressive. I don't know how they do it, especially for a time like that. To me, that's one of the things I think I liked about this film is that I thought about like, it seems like a film that could be made now, but like when you think about the time, you're like, that must have been hard for the time that it was made. And to me, I think that's the part that fascinated me about Citizen Kane is thinking about like being in that time and seeing this film during that time when other pictures didn't really do much like that, or maybe some other ones are out there that I don't know of. But to me, I just put that in my head of like all those like technical aspects of it seems like something that's common in this generation, this era, or these past like 20, 30 years. But in that time of the 20s, 30s, 40s, I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm like, so it should have been something very impressive to see in the movie theater with everything that they were doing. And one of the scenes that I liked, and when we go back to Kane's childhood, is when he's in the snow and I think he's playing with a snowball or something, and the camera's on him, and it seems like the camera's like outside with him, but then we start pulling like back, and then we go through the window, and then we go back, and then we see that his mom's looking at him out the window, which I thought was pretty cool. And I don't know how they did that. I have to look that up. But that was just pretty cool because just seeing that stuff is nice. Those little tricks that they did, especially for that time, and that framing was nice. Also, I think I'm not sure if it still continues right there. But again, this is something that I picked up because I've taken so many classes, and this is a common film that we see in the film classes. So the thing is, my professor's kind of talking through me. There's also that scene where I'm not sure if it's a continuation of this, but it stays stuck on what's his name? It's not Thompson. The guy that ends up taking him. I forgot his name, but it's when he comes and talks to his mom and his dad, and then like it's pulled back and they're kind of arguing, bickering at one another, and Kane is still in the frame, but he's like in the background and kind of in his own box with the window, which is pretty cool. And I think one of my professors brought up how it seems like he's the one that's kind of being excluded from this conversation. He doesn't have a say in this thing that's going on that's basically about his life. I mean, he doesn't have a say whether I want to go, I don't want to go, but he's right there. So it's pretty cool to see something like that. There's also the scene that I'm pretty sure is a lot of the things that I said, I'm pretty sure a lot of you people have probably heard it already. So I'm just doing kind of my video on it. It's cool because I never did a video on Citizen Kane. It's a film that I really enjoy. But yeah, like I said, I'm talking through my professors again. There's a scene where Kane meets up with some of his people, and then he's going into like walking away. Well, first when we're at the table, there's a window there, and the window seems like a normal window the size of a kitchen, like someone at the dinner table, and the window's like right there. But then when Kane comes in and then he starts walking towards the window seems to get bigger, and he's even his like size, he's like below the window. He's not even like not someone that's able to like look outside of the window. He's like right below it. And it's amazing how like they do that trick of having them go farther, and then when they come back, they're coming back bigger. So Kane goes that way. He gets tiny when he gets closer to the window, and a window that looked normal, but then as he gets closer to the window, it looks freaking huge. And then he starts coming back, and he comes back like looking huge himself. Like he ends up looking big as he comes back. So those are impressive things to see in the film. There was a scene that I wanted to talk about. I can't remember. It was a cafe scene, but I can't remember exactly where it was. I'm not sure if it was the only cafe scene, but it was a cafe scene. The reason I wanted to talk about it is because how I think that I haven't experienced this myself, but I think this might be true that sometimes production can props and all that a set can actually trick the audience, and you can use it well with the camera. Because I remember when I did my short film Last Day, we ended up renting a place. I got this set because we're going to use weapons and all that, so I wanted it to be secure and not get anyone in harm. And we bought this set, and we got the whole part of it, and what came with it, although we didn't use it, it came with the cafe. And the owner, we talked to the owner. You always get to know the owner when you get a place, and so we were talking with him and all that. And he was happy that we were interested in his place, and he was a cool guy. It was a nice place, and we got to see the diner, and we went in there, and then he talked about. He's like, yeah, we got some people that come, but then when they see the diner, they get all upset. They're like, oh no, it's too small. It's too small. But he's like, but they don't know that the camera actually makes it look big, and it's true because I've seen some movies, people that shot there, some of their like short films or clips and all that, and the diner is small. But with the camera, it makes it look like a normal diner would be, like the size of a normal diner. So I think I wanted to bring that up because for some reason, cafe scene here and like talking about camera work and sets and props, it brought back that memory of when I did that short film and that conversation I had with him. I mean, I never experienced it. But hearing that and then seeing this, I'm like, oh, that might be true then, huh? That when you put the camera, even if the set looks kind of small, the camera might still pick it up and make it look like it's a normal big set, you know? Because I've seen some clips or some short films that were shot there, and it looks like the diner scenes look like, yeah, they look normal. They don't look like it's really somewhere where they're squished and anything. And yeah, so he had said that some people that come check it out, they're like, nah, that place is too small. We can't do it here. So, but yeah, it's something I just wanted to bring up. I love what they do. Like I said, that Orson Welles actually has Kane like kind of walk away and then come back. So there's characters, what's known in the foreground, middle ground, background, and they're all there in the camera. And it's amazing too, because sometimes someone's face is close here, someone's like in the middle, someone's in the back. And it's amazing to see that because you can hold the whole story in like that frame right there on what's going on, people's reactions, how serious the whole thing is. It's amazing to see things like that. And you get to see every character in there and what they're doing, what their posture is, what their reaction is. And so you get to see a lot of middle ground, foreground, background. And it's amazing. I think it's something that a lot of people said this was known for too, because they kept it in there, the middle ground, foreground, and all that. I forgot the word that they said that it had. There was a word for it. It was in focus, I think. It was in focus, yeah. It was in focus. So yeah, usually you would probably just get like one person in the frame and focus, and then everything kind of not that focused. But right here, it seemed to keep everything in focus, which was really great. I have a story, one of my passion projects, which I don't even know if I'll ever get to do, because one of the reasons I don't think I'll be able to do it because we're in a different time. And then the story that I have is from a time that I was growing up in. But nowadays, with the way the world is, I don't think I'd be able to, like, I'm pretty sure there'd be some issues. I mean, there's a way I can do it around it, you know, go around it. But I don't know. I think it'd be like kind of, people will look at it and be like, why are you writing something like that? So, because we're in a different time. But I always think about this, and I always wanted to use this for my film in a way. There's a nice scene. There's two of them actually, and it has to do with Kane's wife. And his first wife, when he gets with her, they end up getting together, and there's like a wide, and they're at a table and they're next to each other. They're like sitting right next to each other. Then after it starts time, it's cool because it tells the passage of time too with the relationship as it's going. It's kind of straining, you know. They're first a little bit kind of playful, then it's getting a little bit serious, then it's getting like really serious, where you can tell like there's no love there anymore. But yeah, so it starts with the wide, then they're at the table together, both of them, which is showing that they're fond of each other, you know, their first time, they're, you know, they're lovebirds and everything. And then it goes to close-ups back and forth, kind of showing like an intimate life with them. And then it goes back to a wide by the end of this whole years that go by. It goes back to a wide, but they're not next to each other at the table. Now they're like at the opposite ends at the table. And to me, it kind of shows like a little mise en scène of kind of like how they were close once, and then like really close, and then like, you know, obviously they were really close because, you know, they end up getting married and everything. When we get married, we get really close, you know. But now look, throughout the years, their life was strained, and there's like a space between them at that big table. Kane's on one side, she's on the other side. So it's cool to see things like that. And it's something I always wanted to try to do in a film, and especially on one of the stories that I was writing. Maybe I'll get to do it in something else, but I was always fascinated by that. And then it goes back to a second wife too. It kind of plays out a little bit kind of like that. You see the framing, and the framing when it's behind her over like the shoulder shot, he's kind of in a distance. And then if it's over his, she's also in a distance, and they're not close to each other. There's like this big old space between them. And as I said, it's just something that fascinated me a lot, and I always wanted to apply that to one of my stories, at least one of my love stories or romance stories that I have. So I thought it's a nice way to actually say a lot with just doing something like that, without having words or anything. It says a lot. So that's one of the things I love about that film. Something interesting on the way they approach this film is like we get involved into this film not by the eyes of Kane, not by the eyes of one of the wives, kind of, but it's going by Thompson's investigation of Kane's life. He's investigating. They gave him a job. They're like, try to investigate what Rosebud meant because this famous guy, this was one of his last words. It must mean something big. And then that's how we get to see the movie. He starts asking someone that used to know him, either his old friend, his ex-wife. We start getting to know that, and when they start talking, we go into that time of his life. So everyone sees a different part of him, and and it's interesting. It's really nice the way the story plays out because it starts out kind of like really. I don't know how to explain it, but there are movies like this, and I like it a lot when the movies are kind of like this, where it's kind of like really like flashy and fun, and then by the end, real life, like the drama hits towards the end of it all. There's a lot of fun to it. Especially with Kane when he's starting, when he wants to get his paper, he wants to get involved in newspaper and all that, and he's kind of laughing, he's just kind of being cocky and all that. And it's crazy, and then it starts getting serious, and you kind of get to see, as the story goes on, you get to see that there's kind of some issues with Kane too, and by the end it gets kind of really dramatic and sad and kind of tragic in a way. So it's something that I like on stories like this, and I think Orson Welles does a great job at as Kane, Charles Foster Kane. His acting's great. There are moments where, as I said, he seems fun. He seems like really fun. He's playing like this really fun guy, this guy that has charm and charisma. He even, I think one of his wives says, you always find something funny to say after, and he does seem like always to find something funny to say. But there are moments where he gets serious too, where even when he gets serious, he looks scary. He looks like he's like, oh, damn, there's a serious part to him too. He's not just that fun guy. There's another serious part to him also, which is fun to see Orson Welles play it that way. It's cool because he has all the money in the world. He can buy whatever he wants. But there's something like seems that's missing for him, and then he loses his first wife. One of my favorite scenes in this film, and it's always one of the scenes that I always want to watch, is when he gets caught with the affair with, I think her name's Susan, the second one. When his affair gets caught, and I don't know why I just love that scene, that performance right there with all of them together. This whole event that kind of twists it around. And again, the framing, I think there's shots right here where all of them are in the frame and there's like big tension going on here. That's what it is. There's like tension, and it's holding you right there with the tension. And I love that scene when he yells I'm Charles Foster Kane, like, you can't hurt me and all that. So that's one of my favorite scenes. There's a scene also, again, to talk about his seriousness. There's a scene also where I think Susan's saying that she doesn't want to be she doesn't want to be made a laughing stock anymore. She's tired of it. And she's trying to tell him that I want to quit. But he gets really serious with her, and it's like basically kind of try to say I'm the one in charge in the situation. And it kind of plays out again too with the way they do this with the body of the actor, the framing of the camera, putting where they're putting it at. And I think she's on her knees, and then he approaches her like kind of serious after he got mad. And the shadow of his body just goes over her, kind of being kind of scary, kind of showing that he's the one in charge of the situation. So I like little touches like that on the film. There's a scene, I think, because when you see this film, like towards the end, Kane is losing almost everything. Everyone, all the people that were close to him, the people that were kind of his friends and all that. He's losing everything, his wife and all that. They're kind of starting to realize what type of person he is, what kind of person he is. And there's towards the end with the second wife, he starts buying all these statues, all these like collectors things and all. He just starts buying all this stuff. And she starts telling him like, we got to go do something. We got to go out. We can't just be here. All you do is collect things and you don't even do anything with them. You just collect them. They're like, it's just a waste. She's like, they don't mean anything. She's like, why do you even have them? They don't mean anything. You're just buying them just to buy them, So you kind of see that he's kind of trying to fill like probably a hole in his life, a gap or something that makes him feel like something's kind of bringing him some comfort, at least a little bit. And it's funny because it kind of reminded me of me, and I was like, damn, personally being attacked. I remember one time when I was when I was in my room and one of my friends came over and I didn't have anything. I had taken some. I regret doing a lot of things that I did when I was younger. I remember I had all these movie posters, and then a part of me thought I had to like mature and like grow up, and I was like, "Oh, this is for kids." And I took down my posters and some of the things that I had. I gave them away, and then my room was just empty. And I was like, "Damn!" And then one day my friend came, like this was years later. He came to visit, and he came to my room, and he's like, "Damn, your room's just empty." He's like, "Why is it so empty? Why don't you have anything?" And I was like, kind of a bit of like, "Oh man." Like, yeah, he's kind of right. Like, and then I just started to like, I don't know. And then I started collecting like these Funko Pops. I know, well, my movies were always there. I never gave up on my movies. Those I collect, but then again, you could relate that with other people saying that, why do you collect movies? They don't mean anything. Like, to me, they mean a lot. And I'm pretty sure to a lot of people that watch this, they mean a lot. You know, a lot of people still tell me, why do you collect those things? Why are you so fascinated by collecting the DVDs and all that? You know, same thing with my Funko Pops. People would be like, why are you collecting them? Like last time I had someone, I went to go buy some comics and someone was like, why you collect those? They're not gonna be worth any. They're not worth anything anymore. I'm like, if I was trying to get something that was worth a comic that was worth something, I'd be collecting ones from like the 50s or 60s. I'm just getting these because I love to read them. But yeah, some of these things that I have here, and I love having them. They make me feel happy, but it makes me think too. Like maybe if it was empty, maybe I wouldn't be happy. You know, I like seeing it, kind of like just the nostalgia feeling of the movies that I like, the actors that I like, the characters that I like. You know, the games that I like, and everything. So having it with me, it's nice. But you could see like some people like just saying like, how does that that's pointless to have it, you know, like it's not gonna mean anything later. I mean, you can't go with it. You're not gonna be able to go with it in your grave. I mean, and look at by the end of this film, I mean, even the beginning of the film tells you already Kane's gone. He doesn't get to take all this stuff with him. It's just left behind, and it's just there all around, you know. So it kind of just brought back a little bit. If it makes a little bit of sense, I probably didn't put it into the correct words, but it makes a little bit sense to what I'm trying to connect to with my life. And when she started bringing that stuff up, it brought back memories to people that tell me, "Why do you collect that stuff? Why do you do that? It doesn't mean anything and all that." But I find some kind of joy in it. It brings a special, it fills a special part for me, you know. If it was empty, it'd be like the way when my friend came and he's like, "Why is your room so empty? Like, why don't you have anything?" You know. And it gets heartbreaking at the end, you know, when Susan leaves him, the second wife takes off on him. She finally had it, you know, she's done with them. She takes off and he doesn't want her to leave because by the time she's gone, he's the only one there. It's just him. He lost Leland, one of his friends. He lost his mom gave him away. He lost his first wife. I think yeah, I totally forgot. He had a child with her too. I don't think I ever saw the child. But I think I think in the news thing it said that I think his kid died, right? I think in the beginning of the news thing, I think it said that his kid passed away or something. And then she leaves and he's the only one there. And then there's this moment where he just starts breaking down everything, starts destroying everything, showing that he's hurt by what happened. You know, he feels like abandoned. You know, he's just really, it's personal for him. You know, he gets really hurt. That scene also reminded me of The Godfather. I just went to go see The Godfather again. I didn't know it was still playing in the theaters, and then someone wanted to go watch it, so I took that person to go watch it. I thought it was gone. I thought it was only for a week, but they found out that it was still playing, so I was like, "Oh well, we'll go watch it." So when I saw the movie, it reminded me of Connie when she gets mad when she starts throwing all the things. When she's upset when she finds out that her husband's having an affair and she cooked for him, and then she just starts making this big old scene throwing everything. So it's funny because I had just seen that, and then I put Citizen Kane, and then Orson Welles is kind of throwing everything just like Connie. But it's really heartbreaking, those scenes when they're showing that and how they're showing that they're really hurt from the person that they love. You know, by the end of the film, Thompson, which I think is his name, doesn't really figure out what Rosebud is, and they ask him, they're like, "So did you, what have you been doing this whole time? Have you found out about where Rosebud is?" He's like, "Nope, I don't know." He's like, "I don't think it matters." And to me, it was kind of touching that he says it in a way like that, where he's like, and I think people can interpret it different ways, but I think he paid attention to Kane's life. He got a little glimpse of his life and felt that many people probably don't need to know about it. You know, he got to know it, and he's like, "Why?" And it's kind of, I think he says something like, why does it matter? Like, what's the point of it? Does it really matter what Rosebud is? There's like, why is it important to you? Why does it matter to you? That was his life, you know, so just let it be, kind of. And it's kind of the way I took it. In a way, it was kind of like, I felt like really I don't know. There's kind of an appreciation to the way that Thompson says it when they're asking him, and he kind of says it in a way like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you. That's his personal life. I can't be telling you guys all that stuff. That's a man's life, and probably something that he sees like maybe I wouldn't want people to know about my stuff either." So yeah, Rosebud. I think Rosebud is so popular. Like when everyone says it, Rosebud. Obviously, it's going back to Citizen Kane. And again, I think it's something people could interpret in different ways. And I never knew what it was. But the way I would always interpret it when I saw the film was always like kind of his childhood, his favorite like toy, kind of away from this life, something where he can escape. That's what it meant. That sled, that Rosebud. And I think a lot of people relate it to childhood, but I've seen some interpretations that mean something else. And I think I tried looking it up yesterday too, and I think Orson Welles said it was something else too. I'm not sure if he said exactly what I said, but I think he might have said that it meant. I think he said something that it meant his mother's love. It meant the love of his mother. But to me, I always picked it up as a like childhood and all that. And then I read too that who was the other guy that worked on the movie with Orson Welles? He said that I think he got the idea from him of, I forgot what it was, a bike or something that he lost, and he could never let go of that. Like it would always hurt him. So it brought back a memory to me when I went to Disneyland one time and I had this. Oh no, it wasn't. Oh yeah, it was that hat. I had this hat, and I love that hat. And I went to one of my coworkers from an old job. She invited me to Disneyland, and we got on the ride. And then you know how when you're gonna spin around, or if you get on the water ride, you have to put your stuff away. And I put it away in one of those things. And then right when I got off, the ride took off, and I'm like, oh, my hat, and it was gone. And it always hurt me because I really love that hat. I really love that hat. So, and I still like. I think about it sometimes, or I see pictures pop up with that when I had that hat. I'm like, oh, there's that hat. And I always wanted to replace it, but I could never find it. It sucks because when you find these things that you like, sometimes it's the one that you can't find again. It was only one of them. It's not like one that's common, like in the store. And this was one that I found like at Walmart. And I always try to find the exact one, and I could never find the exact one. And yeah, I still think about that hat sometimes. So I think those are kind of things that they put into this film with that. The film reminded me, not because it's black and white. It's funny because the other movie's black and white, but the film for some reason reminded me of Raging Bull, which is another one that I love about Raging Bull. It's kind of this man who starts off with these people around him, and by the end of it, he loses everything. And it's tragic. It's all more about the character right there, So I think Charles Kane had these people around him, but then they got to see his way of being, who he was, how he was. By the end of it, there's no one there. I think he basically dies alone too. And Raging Bull too. Jake LaMotta. By the end of the film, he's by himself. Even when he talks to his brother, it's just really touching when he tries to get back with his brother, but then it's like, oh yeah, I'll give you a call later, and that's it. And then obviously his wife took off with the kids. And one of my most favorite scenes of that film, which is one that always kind of makes me cry, is when he starts hitting the wall. Jake in the room where he's starting to say, I'm not a monster, kind of hurt, these guys do have their flaws, but I think it's something that's kind of out of their control too, in a way, which makes it kind of sad also. So that's the way I take it, and that's why I compared it to Raging Bull. I don't know why the Raging Bull came into my mind when I started watching the film. One of my nephews, Daniel, he's into film. He's taken some film classes in high school. And I was talking to him last night too, when I got back from work, we're talking about movies, short films, and all that a lot. And my other nephew, his brother, he's all into like Marvel and all that stuff. And he's one that I would expect to be like, oh, the movies you guys watch are boring, and all that stuff. But he took a cinema class. And I was like, oh, he's like, yeah, Uncle Mike, we're gonna watch Citizen Kane. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, well, I hope you pay attention and everything and you learn from it. But I was like, he's probably going to come out saying it's boring, it's whack and all that. But when I talked to him about it, I was like, hey, did you see Citizen Kane? He's like, yeah. I'm like, did you like it or not? And I didn't think he was, but he said, no, yeah, I liked it. And the words that came out of his mouth, I didn't say anything to him, but he's like, Uncle Mike, the movie's kind of sad. I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's good, but it's kind of sad. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, well, at least he kind of understood it, and he paid attention to it. So yeah, it is kind of sad, the film, when you watch it. It was a part of it, but I was trying to tell him too about the technical parts of it too. Like I was like, pay attention to this and that. It's amazing how they did these things and things that you see in movies now that you watch and all that. So it was cool that he said something like that. I was just like, wow, that's my nephew. Like, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I do know that Citizen Kane is one movie that some people do not like. Like, trust me, I brag about Citizen Kane like any other probably film major person does, but trust me, there are people who freaking hate Citizen Kane. Just like I think people hate The Godfather. There are people out there that hate The Godfather, and I know it's true. I mean, it's just their thing. I think there are reasons for it, you know. But yeah, when I start talking about Citizen Kane or The Godfather, putting it in social media, I know there's probably someone out there being like, "Oh, that movie's not that great." That guy talks about those movies like they're freaking epic, and they're probably not. And to them, it's probably like nothing. They're like, "I've seen better." Probably. I had a professor in my university. I forgot what class it was. Wait, it was. I dropped out of it, and we had to write like papers on it. And he was one of those people that was really like, oh my god, Citizen Kane. That's not the most famous. That's not the most greatest film of all time. Like he just like trashed like whatever. He was like, please. Like he would roll his eyes when Citizen Kane would come up. He was like, yeah. He was like, he really didn't like Citizen Kane. It's funny because all my professors that showed me Citizen Kane, he was the one that finally like showed like, you know what, I'm not into that stuff. Forget that. Citizen Kane's not that cool. And so yeah, I saw something of a post on the Batman movie somewhere, and someone's like, "You guys remember that scene from Family Guy where they're gonna drown?" And then they're like, "I don't like The Godfather," and they're like, "It's because it assists upon itself." So I thought that was kind of funny, and it kind of shows like how these people probably think about this stuff. You know, it assists upon itself, that it's important, that it's big. To me, it is. I mean, it's something that I look back to, and like I said, look, it made me want to made me want to kind of copy it to tell a story about a relationship that's being strained from like the way they presented it in their film. You know, I always wanted to do that in a story that I wrote while that I was writing. So I thought that was nice. There's a lot you can learn from Citizen Kane, but yes, there's are probably other movies that you might think are way better. You might not like this one. Then again, there are people who think that black and white films are boring, because I don't think they're really paying close attention to it. You know, but I love a lot of films from like that time because of going to school and all that. And some of them I found on my own. Just like I found out that I thought Citizen Kane was the one I got introduced to at school, but it was just then when I looked up on social media, I'm like, oh, it was just me who went to go look for it because I know I wasn't taking any film classes around that year. So it was me that went and found it. And then I think I learned on YouTube certain things about it and all that. And then I was taught it in school, and then even I learned even more. And so yeah, and it looked great on the Blu-ray that I got, the Criterion Collection Blu-ray. It looked great. There are some special features that I can't wait to see that I might do it today. I think there's a commentary with Roger Ebert, which really gets me excited. So I kind of want to see that. And there's a few other things that I kind of want to look forward to. But yeah, that's my thing on Citizen Kane, my review on Citizen Kane. If you guys enjoyed my video, please hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.